Hello, welcome back to our lessons. We are going to be discussing the part 2 of strings methods. So let's start. Now there's a function called upper. So string upper is a method that returns the uppercase string from the given string. So it's going to convert all the lowercase characters into uppercase. If you pass it a string where there are no lowercase characters, it will just return the unchanged string. Now if there are numbers or special characters such as an exclamation mark, those are going to be ignored. So let's see how this works. We have a string which says this should be uppercase. All of it is in lowercase and there's one special character. So when we run this, we should get everything back in uppercase. Same with this one. It will convert all the lowercase to uppercase. Let's run it and see. The numbers and the exclamations are ignored and they are returned as such. Now this is useful if you are trying to compare strings. For example, here we have a string where it says Python is awesome, and here's another string which says Python is awesome, except that there are some characters which are uppercase in this one. So if we want to see the content of the two strings, whether that is the same or not, one way to do it would be to convert both the strings to uppercase and then compare those uppercase strings. So the way we will implement it is using a conditional. We say if first string to upper is the same as second string to upper, then we return the strings are the same. Otherwise we say they are not the same. So let's run it and see. It says the strings are the same. That's because both of the comparison has been between the uppercase strings on both ends. So this value evaluates to true. Therefore this part is run. If there was an actual difference between the strings, for example, if we have an extra a, then even after making it uppercase they will not be the same. So the expression when we run would return to the strings are not the same. So this is how dot upper method works. Dot lower method works in a similar way, and it returns the lowercase string from the given string. It's going to convert all the uppercase characters to lowercase, and if there are no uppercase characters, it's going to return the original string. So let's see how it works. So pretty much as expected, it converts all these into lowercase. Now let's come to the string split function. The split function is going to break your string into separate strings, and the break is going to happen at whatever parameter we pass it on. So if we do not pass anything within the split parenthesis, it's going to cause a split at the space. So love thy neighbor will become three separate strings. And if we are going to pass a separator, then it's going to use that separator, identify where it occurs in the string, and then separate accordingly. Now let's run it and see. So there we have it. Now the thing to note is that we are going to return a list of strings. So there are three strings here, love thy neighbor separately, and these have been separated by the split function at space. The reason we separated at space was because we did not give it any argument. The second one we have separated at comma because the argument was given as comma and space. So we get milk. Now notice that the separator itself is not going to be contained in the returned strings. So milk does not have the comma at the end of it, and nor the space. So this is the part which is going to get extracted from our string, and the remaining strings are going to be separated out and given to us in the form of a list. We can specify any kind of separator, and we can also specify how many times that separator has to be used. So for example, in this string where we have a list of grocery items, milk, chicken, bread and butter, so there are 4 items here we can see, and each of the 4 items is separated by a hash. So there are 3 hashes. Now if we split it using hash directly, then we get 4 items, milk, chicken, bread and butter. But suppose we want to use this hash only once. We can pass a parameter 1. Now if we run it, it's going to separate milk from the rest of this string. It's going to only consider the first time that hash occurs as a separator. The other times this hash occurs, it's going to ignore it because we specified that you only need to look at it once. So this is the way you can pass a number of parameters into the split function. Now we come to the replace function. A replace function can be very useful if you have a string and you want to replace only a certain part of that string. So we use an old substring and we give it a new substring with which that old one is to be replaced. Let's see how it works. So for example, we've got a string which says cold cold heart, and we want to replace the cold with big. So we pass both the arguments to the replace function. We say song.replace and we say cold, which is to be replaced by big. Now let us see how it runs. So as you can see, we have big heart instead of cold cold heart. In the second example, we have a string, the song called Let It Be, which repeats 4 times. Let it be, let it be, let it be, and let it be. So 4 times. Now we want to replace only 2 occurrences of the string. So let us say we want to replace let with don't let, and we want it to happen only 2 times. So we can pass a numeric parameter saying exactly that. We say you look for let, replace it with don't let, but do it only 2 times, and do it the first 2 times you find let. The outcome is here. So it's replaced let with don't let. This is the replacement done the first time and the second time. The very first time let occurs, it has not replaced it because it was looking for let with a lowercase l, and this has not occurred here. This is the uppercase L. So the first time it found let with a lowercase l was here, which is where the replacement occurred, and it occurred twice. For the third time there was no replacement. Now we can also replace just a single letter. We don't have to replace a whole substring, because technically a single letter is also a substring. So we can replace C with B and see how it comes out. And there it is. And again we can specify how many times it is to be done. So if we place 1 over here, in the second string let it be, we are finding let and replacing it with so, but we are only doing it 1 time. So the first time we replace it, the second occurrence and the third occurrence of let has not been replaced. So this is the way replace function works. Now let's come to a really important function called the strip function. The strip function basically removes characters at the leading and the trailing end of the string that we have given it. Now by default, if we are not passing it anything, it's going to remove spaces. So many times you will see that in a database entry, a string has some leading or trailing spaces at the end of it. Now these spaces are of no informative value to us, but they can mess with the pattern recognition. So we want to get rid of them. So we pass the strip function, and these leading and trailing spaces are automatically removed using the strip function. On other occasions, we want to replace or remove something from a string, and we want to specify in addition to the space what we want to remove. So we can specify it letter by letter. So this is the argument we pass. Now in this case, we are passing space X, O and E. So what we are asking is, we are asking the strip function to look at this string that we are giving it and look at the leading ends of it and the trailing ends of it, and if you find space or X or O or E, then you keep removing these till you find a character which is none of these, and at that point you stop. So let's run it and see what happens. So for the first one, we are stripping just spaces because we have not passed any parameters. So here, if I select this outcome, I see that there are no spaces at the leading or the trailing ends. So this has become a string without leading or trailing spaces. For the second one, we wanted to remove space X, O or E. Now we start at this end. We found a space, we remove it. We found X, we found O, we found X, O, another space. So we keep removing it till we come to L. So everything is removed before L. From this end also we start spaces OX, another space. E is also part of our argument here, XOE. So it also removes the E. So from this end it removes everything till it hits V. So only these 3 characters L, O and V are going to be left in the string, and which is exactly the outcome that we have gotten. Now let's see what happens if we are passing STX. Again we have to start looking here. So once we say STX, this is the first thing we come across is a space. Now space is not part of this STX, so it doesn't remove anything here. On this end, again space, which is not part of anything in this parameter that we have passed it. So for this particular command, it's not going to remove anything at all, and it's going to give us the original string back, including the spaces. Because we've passed a parameter but not included space, and that parameter has not been met, so nothing has been stripped. If we do want to strip something, we have to pass a space also. Let's do that. We give it a space, and now look at the third outcome here, how it changes. So it's removed the spaces. Also removed the X on this end because it was part of the string. O is not part of the string, so we stop here at O in this particular outcome. And the last one is very simple. We have passed it a string Android is awesome, and we are trying to remove an from both ends. We find an on this end, a and n, so we remove it. On this end we find neither a nor n, so nothing is removed, and the outcome is Droid is awesome. Now this is a useful function, but we may also want to strip only from one end, say the right or the left end. So for this string, if we want to remove only from the right or the left end, let's say the right end, we use a different function. We use the rstrip function. It works in exactly the same way as strip function, except that it's only going to look at the right end of things. So let's see how this works. In this string, if we pass the strip function, on the right hand side there are no spaces, so nothing is going to be changed. So we get this back, the same string. So you can notice that the left end spaces are still there, they have not been stripped. Now this string is trying to remove si space oo from the right side, but none of these characters si space o or o occur on the right side, so it's not going to remove anything. The first character we find is D. So if we want to remove D, we need to include D in the argument that we give it. So if we run this one, the outcome is the same. If we run this one, now we have got a D here. So D and then the O's are also there. So these three characters have been found on the right side. They are going to be removed. So up till G we are going to get, which is the outcome we get here. Similarly in this one, we are trying to remove m/dot on the right hand side. So if we start at the right hand side, we find the slash first, which is there, so it's going to be removed. Then we come to m, which is there, so it's also going to be removed. Then we come to o, but o is not part of this string that we have passed, so o will not be removed, and we get up till o. So this is the way rstrip works, the rstrip function. It's going to strip on the right side. The lstrip function works exactly the same, only it works on the left hand side. So this is some of the code that we have run using the lstrip function, and you can pause the video and take a look. The outcomes are exactly as one expects. Now we come to the isUpper function. So all functions we have seen so far with strings have been returning a modified string to us. The isUpper function is slightly different. It returns a truth value, and what the function is trying to do is it's trying to find out whether your string contains uppercase characters or it contains a mix of upper and lowercase characters. So if your string has got everything in uppercase, it's going to return true. If there's any lowercase character, it's going to return false. Now this applies only for alphabets. Any special characters and numbers are going to be ignored. So let's see the first example. This contains uppercase characters and one special characters. So when we run isUpper, we expect the string, the result to be true. Now coming to the second one, this is also good because it contains two numbers which are going to be ignored, one special character which is going to be ignored, but everything else is uppercase. But in the third example, we find that we have three lowercase letters. So when we run this, we are going to expect a false return. So what we are expecting by running this cell is going to be true for the second one, and false for the third one. Let's run it and see. So we get true, and false, which is as per our expectation. So remember that isUpper is not going to convert it to upper string. It's only going to return a boolean value to us. So that's all for the string functions. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.